Hey guys, welcome to this week's review of Put a Ring on It. Okay, so I'm just gonna go by couples instead of chronological order. So let's start off with Erica, not Erica, Jessica and Eric. Okay, so this week Eric didn't go on a date and Jessica went on a date. Um, Jessica and her date went to, I guess, a bar and they drank tequila, I guess. They seemed cute together. It was a cute date. I don't really have much commentary on the date. I don't know if it's a great idea on your first date to drink a lot of shots, tequila shots, but whatever. They seem like a cute match. It's sort of hard to tell from like a 1 minute clip whether or not someone is compatible, but I don't know. Like I said, it seemed like a cute date. They seemed good together. Moving on to the juicy part. So on in the week, Dr. Nicole meets up with Jessica and Eric. And here's the thing about Eric. He would always say that Jessica was shallow, that Jessica wouldn't listen to him about his problems. She was more self centered and cared about herself. And I was kind of confused by that. I needed a little bit more context of what he was talking about, why he kept saying she was shallow, and that he couldn't have deep conversations with her. But it all makes sense now because they were speaking of a time when Eric retired from professional football and he was in a very dark place, right? Which makes sense. Especially in sports, you do tend to have a very short career span. And I can only imagine you dedicate so much of your life to a certain thing, and then all of a sudden you can't do that thing anymore. And you have to figure out, well, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And I'm not quite sure the circumstances in which he stopped playing, but I think a likely scenario was injury, right? Which is very common amongst professional athletes. And if you get a serious injury, that can take you out of the game. So I can imagine you're in this difficult time. You may have suffered an injury which you have to recover from. Certain injuries you may never recover from. And especially something like football, you're banging your head against other people's heads, for a living. And we all know that that can really damage your brain. I forgot what the condition is called, but basically you're getting multiple concussions because you keep banging your head. You take nasty falls because it's a contact sport. Who knows what other complications you can have? And I hope he got decent money for it. So he was going through a difficult time and he felt that Jessica wasn't there for him during that time. And basically they broke up and she quickly moved on to somebody else. They eventually came back together, obviously, but he wasn't able to let that go. That hurt and that pain of how quickly she was being, yeah, of how quickly she was able to move on, especially when he was in such a deep and dark place, and when he needed her the most, when he needed her support the most, she wasn't there for him. And I think we can all relate to that, right? We've all been through certain things in life. And we may find that the people we thought were going to be there for us, they weren't there for us, or they didn't show up in the way we wanted them to show up. I mean, it's a classic saying, like, you'll get to know who your real friends are when you're going through something. And it's very hard to let go of that pain because you can take that moment as a signifier of, okay, well, they're not a true friend, or this relationship isn't meant to be. Um, and Dr. Nicole made a very good point, to which you have to, at some point, you're going to have to let that go, right? If you're going to be in that relationship, you can't keep holding that over her head, right? Or if you're not able to let that go, if it's too deep, then maybe you should take that for what it is, as a sign that maybe you guys are not meant to be together. Maybe this is not the type of person you want in your life. Um, Jessica said her reason for wanting to split up was because he was very angry, understandably, right? And he took out that anger and frustration, which is another thing that often happens. When someone is going through a difficult time, they often take their anger out on the people that are closest to them, right? Because you can't go to the grocery store and lose your shit. You can't go to work and lose your shit and say whatever and do whatever. But with your partner, because you have that level of comfortability, you can let all these parts of yourself that you often have to hide when you go out in society, you can let all of these other parts of yourself out in front of your partner. But to your partner, it could be too much. It could be overwhelming, right? Because you're projecting all your issues onto them, and then you expect them to be able to not only take it in, but have the right response to you, right? Know when to give you advice, know when to give you a hug, know when to just listen. And that could be a lot of expectations. So I definitely can see both sides of it. And Jessica didn't help the situation by moving on really quickly. A lot of people do that, where they get out of one relationship and then they jump into another situation. And I don't know, there's no rule book to life. You can do whatever you want. Another classic saying, the best way to get over somebody is to get under somebody else. But just for me personally, I think it's great to just take that time to heal before you jump into another situation. And I feel like if Jessica just took that time to herself to figure everything out, that then maybe she would realize that her and Eric are not meant to be. Or if they were to get back together, they he wouldn't have that thing over her head. Like, he is already hurt by her being like, I don't, it sounded like she didn't want to be in a relationship anymore. That is already difficult to deal with. But then on top of that, you're seeing somebody else a week after, which then kind of, she was emotionally cheating at that point, because she says that she was talking to him during the relationship. So he also has to kind of move through that as well. Um, I don't know. I don't know about them. They seem they seem to both have a similar energy to me. They both seem sort of fun and energetic and blah blah blah. And he seems to be doing better, right? He's not in that space as he was before. But I can understand how he feels, because life isn't all peaches and cream. Sometimes it is, right? But like he said, he doesn't want someone that's just there when it is good and everything is fine. He wants somebody that's going to be around when there's difficult times too. But that being said, we weren't there. We don't know the details. But if he's taking out his anger on her, that's not healthy either. So he also has to learn that when there is difficult times, when he's going through something, how to communicate and deal with that in a healthy way. And maybe not put everything on her, because sometimes we need different resources, right? We need different people. Maybe you also need to go to a therapist, right? A therapist like Dr. Nicole. Dr. Nicole is definitely helping these couples. I don't know if he's thought. I don't know if he thought. I don't know if he sought therapy at that time, but I'm gonna assume he didn't, because we know the stats. But maybe next time something like that happens, he needs to go to a therapist. He needs to talk to somebody else where he can let these things out, with someone that has the tools to deal with it, right? Jessica may not have that tools. And I think it's sort of unfair to expect your partner to know the perfect thing to say and how to perfectly deal with your issues. There has to be some sort of balance. So, I don't know. I hope they work that out. I guess further along in the season, we're going to get a little bit more context, and I think the best thing they both can do is to both seek therapy individually. That can only help their relationship, I hope. One thing, I'm actually surprised that Jessica, I don't know how old Jessica is, but I was actually surprised that she has two kids. That it's one kid is 12, the next kid is 8. So I wonder how old she is. So Sean goes on a date this week with the same lady, the singer. I don't know her name, so we're going to call her the singer. And LaRonda this week doesn't go on a date. I was actually, as we watch more and more episodes, we're getting more context, right? And it was kind of interesting to see LaRonda be a little bit more jealous this time and a bit uneasy and uncomfortable because usually it is Sean. So that was kind of interesting to see how she reacts when she gets uncomfortable. With LaRonda, I feel like there's a lot we didn't get to see from her yet, so it's really hard to make a judgment about her. So I'm gonna kind of reserve what I have to say about her because she's kind of hard to read, and I do feel like maybe further along. I mean, we're in what this is like what the fifth episode or so. So maybe further along, we're gonna get to know a little bit more about her. Because I guess because Sean was so uncomfortable and so anxious, he really did suck up all the air in the room, and he definitely has gotten a lot of attention. So we haven't really seen so much of her. So we'll see. But Sean, we did get a little bit more context as to why he was so nervous in terms of going on more dates with these ladies and why he was like, I don't see this ending well. I have to control this situation. I don't want to put myself in this situation or else who knows what's going to happen. And I was really confused as to why he felt like this until we heard that he pretty much has never been faithful, and LaRonda is the first person that he's been with that he has not cheated on. So basically, he's a serial cheater. Oh my gosh. Well, kudos for him for trying to curb that behavior. I mean, nobody's perfect, so I'm not gonna judge him for the mistakes that he's made in the past, but now it makes more sense where he doesn't want to be in a situation where he feels like it may lead him to potentially cheat. However, in the context of the show, there's no boundaries, so I guess he wouldn't technically be cheating. I don't know. I don't know about Sean and LaRonda. I really don't. But I do see improvements with them. I do. I do. But I just feel like little bit by little certain things are coming to the surface that are making me be like, oh, I don't know about this. He did decide to not go on a fourth date with the singer, and his reason was it wasn't out of fear this time. It was just more so he likes her. He thinks she's cool and everything. They have a lot in common, but by the end of the day, he looks forward to go home to LaRonda, and he wants to build a life with LaRonda, and he doesn't want to build a life with the singer. And I'm just gonna be real. I mean, LaRonda has a stable career, a stable job, a stable income. I don't know if two entertainers, especially if you're trying to build a family and everything like that, I don't know how that could work out. So when he's saying I can build with LaRonda, I just feel like that's what he meant. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Moving on. Darian and Alexia. So both Alexia and Darian go on their dates. Darian, I believe, is on his fifth date with Kai. And Kai, I don't like if I were going on a show like this, right? Not as part of a couple, but just as an individual going on these dates, I wouldn't go into a situation with the expectation of I'm gonna steal somebody's man. And if I found myself really developing feelings for this person, I would take myself out of the situation. I would say, I don't even think I would say anything. I would just think to myself, okay, I'm starting to feel something for this person. But given the context, given what this person's in a relationship, I'm just gonna remove myself out of this because this is just a little too messy for me. I don't even think I would put myself in this situation to begin with. But at the very least, I would not have that expectation that this person is gonna choose between me or the other. Because she was like, oh, you're thinking about her feelings, but you're not thinking about mine. Excuse me, miss. He was with this person for 14 years. He just met you. So it was just a little bit weird to me. She really came on the show with an agenda. And it's really, I know you can vibe with people really quick, but you barely know this person. You can like him, don't get me wrong, but you want him to make a decision on the fifth date, you want him to make a decision is a little bit weird to me. And it seems a little bit clout chasey to me, right? Because he has a little bit of clout, right? Maybe it's a bit more regional, but he has a little bit of clout. She's in the beauty business. I feel like she thinks it's a good look, right? So it's just, I don't know. I don't know. But maybe, like I said, maybe Kai is a blessing in disguise for Alexia. So Alexia goes on her date, and this is the first time I really seen her loosen up, genuinely smile. It was a very great idea to take her to play basketball on a rooftop, and they had a meal. I think it was a really cute date. And I think it was really smart of her to not talk about Darian because she was like, I don't want to talk about this guy at all. And I'm really proud of her because this is the first time she really gave all her energy to the date. And what else happened? Oh, yes, Darian did meet with Dr. Nicole and they had their little talk. But I don't know with Darian. I just, I don't want to be so hard on him, but it's just something about him is just really manipulative. One of those people that they think they're so smart, but they're not. He may have a way with words, right? And he is very interesting and could be very charming. And when he has his eyes open, I do think he's an attractive guy. But I don't really think he has that emotional intelligence. Because last episode, when Alexia walked out because he wanted to go on another date with Kai, he didn't understand why she would be upset. And she even said it, it's like going over your head. Dr. Nicole was like, how come you can't understand why she would be upset? And he was even telling Dr. Nicole, oh, she has this hard shell. She's so hard. She's so this. She's so that. Well, why is she that way? Why does she have that wall up? Maybe because you keep hurting her over and over again? So she doesn't want to get hurt? So she plays the tough guy? I just, not saying Alexia is perfect or anything, but I don't know with Darian. He just seems very manipulative. And then on the top of the show, right, he was like, I'm going to apologize. I'm going to say sorry. But I'm going to also need you to say sorry. And it's like, dude, that's not how an apology works. That's not how an apology works at all. If you say sorry, you say sorry without without any expectation of that other person. So at the end of the episode, Dr. Nicole says, well, first of all, Darian said he doesn't want to go on another date with Kai. I feel like if Kai didn't give him that ultimatum, he probably would have went on a next date with her. But because Kai kind of put him in a difficult situation, right? And he was between a rock and a hard spot, he was like, you know what? I'm not gonna go on another date with Kai. I don't really feel like he was sparing Alexia's feelings, to be perfectly honest with you. But Dr. Nicole says, okay, Darian, I want you and Alexia to go on a date. And this is iconic. This is iconic because Alexia says, you know what? I don't want to go on a date with Darian. I don't want to go on a date with Darian. And round of applause for Alexia. It looks like from the preview that they broke up. And I'm really happy. I'm really happy for her because she was finally, I know the show is called Put a Ring on It. And of course everybody wants the fairy tale ending, right? Where it ends up with the couples being engaged and then being married. But I think another potential happy ending is for the couples to find out, hey, maybe we're not compatible for each other, and that's okay. And the biggest blessing would be to move on. So I hope this is what happened. Because, 14 years, and you want to get married and you want to have kids, and you've been with this first person for 14 years on and off. I think it's time, and I think Alexia finally saw what she was dealing with when it came to Darian, because I think he's just very manipulative. He's playing games, he's all over the place, and I don't know. It is what it is. So that's everything. See you guys.